I'm a photographer from Minneapolis, and I first heard about Lil Peep when I got a random phone call from Chase, who is his manager, and I didn't know who this person was, Chase or Peep, and this was in 2016, and he called and said, I just answered randomly. It was like this guy was like, "Hey, I work with this dude named Lil Peep. He likes your photos. I know about your photos. We all like them. You should come live with him on Skid Row. He's crazy and does all this cool stuff and like yada da da da." And like I'm probably exaggerating it, but that's what it sounded like in my head. And it was very like, you should come live with Lil Peep on Skid Row and film him and film his life, and because he's gonna be huge. And I was like, "Nah, I'm good, man. That's who no, I'm not. No, Lil Peep. I don't know what that is. I don't know who he is. Sorry, man. Like, I have to go back to working at the grocery store. Like, see ya." And I kick myself every like day about just not taking that chance, you know. But you know, when I'm older, and I couldn't just like up and leave on like a gamble about some guy who's, you know, I don't know, you know. And the way that you described it didn't sound like it just sounded like a wild adventure that I wasn't ready to take. A couple months go by, and Nature World Night Out happens in February, and Chase and the people in Nature World like flew me out to shoot it because I shot the first Nature World, and they were like my stuff. And Peep and GBC were on. I was backstage, and suddenly Lil Peep walked in, and the whole energy of the room just kind of changed, and you could tell that people were focusing on him. It felt different, and it felt like you're like in the presence of a person that was like had a big like just a big personality and a vibe. And like at that moment, like I was even like starstruck, and I didn't even really know who he was. It was just like the energy, the people he was with, and this vibe and this new thing. And it was even before he played. And then he played, and I got it instantly. I was like, oh my God. It was special. It was something different. It was just so, it was good, but it almost sometimes wasn't good. But that was even the best part about it. It was just so raw and real and different. And the energy was there, and the fans were just, it was in LA, and the fans were just hanging on every word and every song. And then after, Chase came up and introduced himself to me, and he introduced me to Peep. And Peep was like, he knew my photos, and I said, "Hey man, I'm Adam. I do like punk photos, and I also do hip hop, and I kind of combine them to do this like kind of different little style." He was like, "Oh yeah, just like me." I was like, "Yeah, dude, cool, exactly. That's like, to a T what he said exactly." And then he posed for a lot of photos with me, and that was that. It was getting past like a mental barrier of like, what is Lil Peep? You know, even when you first hear the name and then you see him, and it's like, what is like, I'm not like a shy person about like people, or I think people are weird or this, but it's like, then you hear the music, and you like, if you're not really listening to it, it's like you had to break through that little barrier of like judgment. He changed my world, you know. It was just, right now I'm on tour with Post Malone, and because of Lil Peep, I'm on tour with Post Malone, like flat out, Post Malone's manager is a fan of Lil Peep. He became a fan of my photos through Lil Peep, and Post got a Lil Peep tattoo that was my photo. And then when I met him, we just started talking about Lil Peep. That was what we talked about. And then he started to like my photos, and then we kept on going in contact, staying in contact. Now I'm on tour with him. All the photos you see from day and night and all the other stuff, there was no studio, no nothing. It was just us, like in the street. Like, we walked around the streets of Minnesota just doing photos, or we'd walk around LA, or we'd do festival stuff, or we'd do this. And just being around them was just so like, it was good. It felt like you met your friends, you know, like you came like, oh, these are your people, you know. It was crazy because I thought like the punk scene was like my people, and then I was like, no, it's not. It's the fucking SoundCloud rap scene is my fucking people. That's crazy, you know. It was just like, he had such a positive energy where it was just like an open energy to think and people, and like let everybody into his world, you know. So I would always text him, right? I text him photos, and the last photo I ever sent him was the one that everybody knows. That was the last photo, and that's the one that everybody knows now. Because I didn't know it was I didn't know what I had, because I had to like dive deep into the photos to actually see that this photo is there. Yeah, I would just text him, and that became the photo that everybody knows. The last time I ever texted him was that. When he passed, I got to know everybody, like his mom and people and stuff through the photos, Somehow my photos became the ones that were used, and I mean, I'm eternally grateful for that, that they want to memorialize him with one of my images, which is very humbling and very nice. And when it's happening, when you're in the actual moment of it, you don't care, But then looking back on it, you're like, wow, that's a big thing, Yeah, he changed my life. It's crazy. Yeah. Lil Peep changed my life. And now I'm here. And this is my job. I quit fucking Whole Foods to come on tour and live my dream.
My name is Alfred Womack, and I'm Gus's uncle. And I probably really remember him most when he's like starting to kind of run around and talk. And he had just a sweet little voice. I don't know quite how to describe it, but just sort of light and playful and kind of curious about whoever he was talking to, and open, and sort of, even as a little kid, you felt like he was really paying attention. Well, I remember Eliza saying, well, he's thinking about going to school for it. And I remember saying, tell him not to do that and to go try and get like an internship in a studio, because that's the way to get into that side of the industry if that's what he wants to do. I don't think I understood that what he wanted was to be a star, and it seems like that is pretty clearly what he wanted. Maybe not, I don't know. At a certain point, my coworkers at the bike shop started to, because I would always be like, oh, my nephew, he's making music, like check out the SoundCloud or whatever, like, because some of them are like also like in one way or another involved in music industry stuff, and so I wanted to like promote him in whatever way I could, I guess. And but yeah, there was a certain point where I was like, check it out, see, I told you so. Like, he was really doing it, and yeah, it was cool. I felt like in some way like this little bike shop in Brooklyn, we're all like rooting for him. It was cool. It was really awesome. He really like had the crowd with him in an amazing way that not everybody can do. And maybe a lot of it is because it was kind of like a hometown show, A lot of his friends came from Long Beach. He was like, he's like, oh, see that guitar? That's the guitar from like Time of Your Life. And like, he had all his kind of like old man souvenirs, And then it was like apparently about 3 hours of listening to beats that Rob Cavallo and Lil Jon had made in like 2005. And Rob Cavallo being like, if you think you could use any of this, like totally, like, man, that would be awesome. And like Gus is sitting there kind of like, okay, like, I mean, imagine Lil Jon like circa 2005, and At the time, I thought like, well, he's probably fine, and if he stopped posting things, then maybe I would be worried. But if he's like, he's got his phone, the phone has a charge, he's like on the phone, on the app, like typing, like you have to be pretty with it to do all that stuff. So I guess I don't know if I thought it was a cry for help as much as a way of making a connection with his. Well, when he said all those political things, because he said, I remember, I followed him on Instagram, and I remember seeing one post or another about, like LGBT rights or Israel or that kind of thing, and I remember being really proud of him, I guess, for standing his ground on that stuff. I thought, especially coming from someone who did have such a wide audience, it was really important and brave. I thought he was very brave as a person and as an artist. I think that having the Instagram and social media presence that he did is a way of, well, people are going to listen, you know?
My name is Angelo Lozano. Me and Gus were actually, I'd like to consider him my, if not my best childhood friend, definitely top 3. He was very, very, very into music, you know, like he's had already been starting to dye his hair and stuff like that. You already saw that, him trying to copy Eminem and stuff. Sometimes he would start like freestyling in front of us, a bunch of us. He's starting to like freestyle, blah, blah, blah. And we're all like, oh, nah, you're writing all this down. You write this down every single night. Like, I know we know you do, because he was getting like, he was doing pretty good. It was funny. And I just remember that this exact bus ride, but we finally call him out. We're like, yo, that's it. No freestyle, no phone. Here, give us your phone, freestyle. We don't believe you. Go ahead, do something. We just put on a beat, and like, he just killed it right away. Started rapping. It was awesome. He was, that's when I finally believed it. I was like, holy shit, maybe he's good. He was always popular. He was always, girl star, he was like one of the most attractive kids in the grade. Cause the way that kids here in Long Beach like act, they feel like they need to live up to this standard that everyone lives up to. Like, you need to do that to be cool and like, just like always be social or whatever. And Gus like just didn't want to do that and just wanted to chill at home. So like that like developed him the anxiety. So like he actually got anxious, I feel like, because people expected too much from him. Because I was saying like he's popular, attractive, like people wanted to see him out all the time. So I mean, he always cared about people. There's just this one friend, Quinn. Do you know our friend Quinn? A lot of people misunderstood him, but Gus always hung out with Quinn, always, all the time, no matter what. Like, he wouldn't go out to parties and just hang out with Quinn. And Quinn's the man. Like, I love Quinn. But, like, he was always misunderstood and didn't hang around with, like, a bunch of other people that were expected to. And Gus just always stuck around. Gus took me in, whatever. And he would always just be sitting in his room. I guess it just helped him make music, express the way he feels. I liked it. It was different. It was cool. I didn't hate on it. Lil Peep was dope. I thought he was gonna change it eventually, but he never did. Stay Lil Peep. Yeah, like, you know, I thought like Lil Peep was like a little unprofessional name, so like I thought he was gonna like make it a different. You know how people do that sometimes. Some artists, right? Artists do that. I was like, he would post something on SoundCloud and I would share it on Twitter. Every single track he had. Once the heavier parts came out, I was like, this isn't Gus. This is a front. It's not like a bad front. It's like he's just trying to be a good guy and like make sure that he wanted to make people feel good. Like, I was joking around. I was like, your music kind of sucks. Dude, your music's like, it's just like not popping. I'm just like you can't get that out because like the fans will fucking kill me, you know? Like, fans will be like, oh damn, now it's a front. But like, he didn't want people to think that. He wants to help people out. Which is why I think that he was a happy ass dude. Like, he was just trying to do his best to like make it a better world, like make people more happy. Yeah, dude. There was points in like where like he was doing like part 1 and stuff like that, or where he didn't even have enough money to be doing all that kind of shit. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm saying. Like, he'd be like, Coke, there's Coke on my shelf. Like, be like, bro, there was never Coke on your shelf. Like, you know what I'm saying? A lot of that was a persona image. Like, I'm this kind of dude. Like, this is me. My boy Sam, who you're about to interview, he texted me. He goes, yo, like, have you heard anything about Gus? I was like, no, why? He goes, because, yeah, dude, I think he just died. He goes, I think he just overdosed. And I was like, and I don't know, I just instantly believed it. Like, it was just like, oh, fuck. Man, and then I just sat there for a little bit. And then it hit me like after like 5 minutes, maybe. Like after sitting there, I tried to sit there as long as possible, like acting like cool. Like I was like being like, all right, I'm chilling, like good. And then 10 minutes later, I like go into my room and then I like break down for like a little bit. I have a feeling he might have left me off like well. Like if he actually made it, he would have like gotten like in touch with me or some shit. Cause like we understood how that we had different lives and like how we each had to live our own life. And he felt bad for like a bunch of like friends like me, for example, like, you know, people with low income and stuff like that. I knew that after Come Over part, when You're Sober Part 1 came out, I knew it's like, wow, it's over. Like, yeah, it was just mad soon afterwards. It was just way sooner than I expected. If I had to like explain the kid, like he was not a junkie. Like he was the greatest person ever. He cared about like a lot of people, like that he meant it, that like meant good, you know? He was so fucking intelligent, like I don't know, people get this wrong impression, like older people, for example, like I don't know, people won't understand the reason why this documentary is being made. Like kid had good intentions, like the best citizens in the world. He was gonna make it, you know? That's all I really have to say.
Yeah, there's a purity in it.
I heard the song Beamer Boy, and I was like, this is when Beamer Boy was like super low key, like didn't have that many plays or whatever, and that shit changed my life. For real, like that shit changed my life, and I had to send him. I wanted just to make music with him. Like he had no type of like big following or anything. I just really fucked with him, like for real. And then I hit Cold Hard up, and I was like, yo, pretty much I fuck with Peep, like let me get his email so I can send him beats. So then I sent a lot of beats to Peep, and then he actually ended up using 2 of them on like one of his first bigger projects called Crybaby. But yeah, I up until then I didn't meet him in person or anything. It was all like through the internet.
Pete first came into the picture around late 2015, early 2016. Our collabs were kind of rare, like, but we just started hanging out more, and then he just hit me up like while he was working on Crybaby, and I already made a song with Charlie Shuffler, the producer of Big City Blues, called Never, and I guess he really liked that one, and so he started working with Charlie, and then he sent me the ultimate country cowboy song, and it was Big City Blues. He made the song already with the Charlie Shuffler beat, and then he was like, yo, I want you to check this shit out, this country song. And I was like, bet, I love country shit, I'm about to gas it. And then I heard it, and like instantly, like that night, I had to go record on it, and then I did, and like I had to make it perfect for him. And then so I emailed it back to him. For recording, we mostly sent it back and forth. The only song we ever did in person was Black Jeep featuring Magnet. But yeah, it was usually online.
Like literally as simple as emailing him the MP3 file. And that was that. We have not made one song in the same room. One, like ever. And we have a lot of songs out.
But that's what made like the collabs more special, not being in person with each other. We would send it to each other, but make it with each other in mind, so that, because we knew like we would do something crazy on it if we made it specially for ourselves. Because like, I don't know, my relationship with like Peep was like a super creative one, and we would just bounce back on each other. So when we sent each other songs, it was rare because we made it like, and we didn't always have like a lot of time. So we had like to craft it for ourselves. And then usually we would send it back to each other and be like, yo, this is hard as fuck. Like first try. Like I never really had to be like, this kind of whack, redo it.
He never once, because a lot of people, if I work with them on the internet, they'll DM me back or text me back and be like, yo, can you change this up? Or can you add this at this part at this time or whatever? It was never like that. It was literally like, I sent him the beat and he rapped or sang over it however that was. And it's just like crazy to have that connection with someone, like so natural, and not even like work with them face to face. Like it's crazy.
I always just felt super comfortable when I collabed with Pete. He just sounded like someone I could collab with all day type.
With Peep, I never had to worry about making sure I got credited with my songs, and also, even before he passed, I'm not sure if this was him or his label, but like either way, like his label was reaching out to me. I'm not sure what other producers they're reaching out to. And like, cause they're planning on, I'm not sure if they still are, but they're planning on putting the songs on Spotify and Apple Music, all that. And they're reaching out to at least me to making sure I was getting compensated correctly. So like, I think that, cause legally, how I sent him the beats, I don't think they had to do that, technically. So like, I think that shows, I don't think Peep would ever be like, if I ever was like, yo, like, if he ever put one of our songs on Spotify, I was like, yo, like, I didn't get any agreements or I didn't get any contracts. I know for 100% fact he would make sure I was getting paid correctly. 100%, because like, whenever I was with him in real life, he always made sure I was good. Like, with everything, because he was always super thankful I was working with him. And I was super thankful he was working with me. Like, it was super mutual, you know what I mean? So, I don't know, like, it's crazy that we're able to, like, make that type of music and have that impact and never, like, do it in the same room. Looking back at it now and, like, reflecting on, like the type of turn my career made, like, after those two projects, like, I got them tatted on me because of it. Because being able to reflect, I was like, wow, like, these projects really changed my life.
I'm just happy that I got to know him, like actually know him, like speak to him, and just like create things with him, because not a lot of people really did. And like, he was private about just who he worked with. So now I'm just happy that I got to know Gus.
I'm Clams Casino, producer from New Jersey, and I worked with Gus just on one song. It's called 4 Gold Chains. We had plans to work more. That's the only one we ended up getting done though. Yeah, my first reaction was like, yeah, I didn't know what to think about it. I knew for sure it was new and like intrigued by that. But yeah, because the first thing, that was right about the time, I think it was like Hellboy had come out. So that was the first thing I looked up, and like, that's a pretty, like, some of those songs pretty like intense, like introduction to, you know, so I didn't know what to think at first. And then I was like, yeah, I don't know if I have anything that would work, you know, just like what I do. I don't know if it would. And then I started kind of backtracking and looking at his music that came out before that I didn't know about, that I wasn't aware of, and the older mixtapes and stuff. And then I started to understand it, like just what he hears, like his like sense of melodies and stuff, and kind of how they just like seem to like get stuck in my head. And I always, like, you know, that was something that I really like notice about his music as well, like how he fits himself on the beat, like melodically and stuff, and a lot of like some of his earlier mixtapes and stuff, like real ambient type, through a lot more of his music. And I'm like, oh wait, yeah, I think what I do actually would work with him really well once I, you know, hear more of the stuff that he's used production wise and what he does melodically. Like, I was like, I got it, like, yeah, it'll definitely work. Those kind of, in general, rap, rock type situations have never really been done well or right, in my opinion, but until then. And he made it his own thing, like, fully, but you can clearly tell all of his influences with, you know, down to what hip hop artists that he liked, and you can I think clearly hear all that stuff, but was able to make it fully his own thing. That might have been the one that we did, was like the first beat that I sent him, just that by itself. Chase gave me his number and I texted him, asked him for his email, and I had that one idea sitting around for a while actually that I had done some other stuff with and people I had messed around with, but on that beat, but nothing ever like finished. And that was the one idea that I had for him, that I was like, this is the first one I'm gonna send, and he did that one, sent it right back. I was like, just what it needed to be, like perfect matchup. Like, you know, I was happy that it was a perfect fit. That's why that's why I sent him that one beat. I was like, I hope if he's gonna do anything, this is the one thing I have at the moment that he, you know, he'd be perfect on. And yeah, oh yeah, it's way different now. Yeah, what he's saying and topically, like, yeah, it's. I mean, it's for a lot of the rest of his music. Of course, it's same situation. To listen to it now is a different feeling, of course. In his music and just like him, general, I didn't know him. We actually never met in person, but you can just tell that. I mean, that kind of attitude comes out in the music that he makes, and it's like just seem, you know, effortless like that. He's not trying to do anything really that he's not, and just kind of being able to tell, or maybe for his fans feel like they know him without ever meeting him, or you know, I think that's how he's really been able to connect with so many of them.
He just would like hit me up and be like, yo, I want you to paint a dope ass mural in my backyard, and I was like, okay. And then I came over and Liza was like, yeah, like Dana, we want you to paint a mural, and they would want me to paint like a bunch of things like in their house.
In high school, he was like making music. Yeah.
Oh, he always.
Yeah, like
He always wanted to be a rapper.
He always fucked around. Like he was always good at like a freestyle or anything like that. Like he was always good at it. Always the best one in the room. Like for a fact. Like easily the best one in the room. Like,
but like didn't know it yet. Like he would like not rap in front of anybody like that.
Like listen to all these artists like Dylan Ross and shit, and he would just make songs that were like kind of like theirs. You know what I mean? And then eventually he just like made songs that were like super, like then eventually he like found his own style, you know what I mean?
And then like all of Long Beach started listening to it, like the older kids that Gus didn't talk to at all, like people who like probably like made fun of Gus in high school were like listening to this song. It was so funny. They're like lifeguards, and that's like the so opposite of Gus.
When he came back, he started just making music mad, and that's when he got good, you know what I mean? Like that's when he like really like knew what he was like started.
He literally blew up in like a year of him making, like seriously making music.
Like he put
a year later he was like,
and then, like,
got it.
Before we knew it, like he was having like 20,000 plays on stuff.
Gus knew who everyone was. Like that's the thing. Like Gus knew who everyone was. Not only that, he knew like all their like back history too. Like somehow. You know what I mean? Like so he was like when Jay Green hit him up, he was like, word, like this has like serious potential. You know what I mean? Like,
he knew what he was doing.
Yeah, he knew like exactly like what audience he was like making it for. Like he knew exactly like what he was doing at that point.
Yeah,
like,
if any of us tried to like give him any type of like,
he'd literally be like,
nah,
he would just be like, shut up, I know what I'm
yeah,
doing.
he knew what he was doing.
He'd be like, why are you making the video so low quality? Like, let's make it good. And be like, nah, like this is the way it's supposed to be. Like,
and now like everybody's music videos are like super low quality. It's like a cool thing.
Why are your songs so short? And he'd be like, nah, this is the way that it is.
It's like, nah, that's what
I mean, he was fucking smart.
He would get features. I remember he would get features from all these like small artists, and he would literally ice them so hard.
Like
he would literally
be so bad.
Like they would send him their verse, and like they would have so many more followers and shit on SoundCloud, like so much more shit, and their verse would be trash. We would just like skip over their verse and just listen to Gus. Anyone like specifically, but like he would just like all those kids would like. They're not like, they wouldn't be like the friendliest person, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Ever, you know, and like, then like all of a sudden like...
They were like DMing him and he'd be like, what the fuck?
He didn't even want to play shows in New York City because like, he just like didn't want like everyone from Long Beach just like, he didn't want it to be just like a Long Beach fest, you know what I mean? Like, that it would just
He hated Long Beach.
Yeah, like, and when he did play shows in New York, like he would keep it like super DL, you know what I mean? Like, because he knew like what it could turn into, you know what I mean?
The first time I started listening to Lil Peep, I was checking out his videos on YouTube, and I was just like, man, I was blown away. I was like, man, his style is like Nirvana, you know, it's like Kurt Cobain.
I was playing Xbox, and then I checked him out, and it was fucking awesome. It's just, I think it's different, and it's like a breath of fresh air.
I heard like 5 songs. And then after he passed away, rest in peace, after he passed away, then I listened to more. But it's like, that's what I was saying before, like I really feel like he's so important, like to the generation now.
Man, I was like, man, this dude, like he gonna be huge, you know what I'm saying?
Because at the time, when he did the song with me, he was still like underground, but his name was buzzing hard. Like he was packing out shows and selling out all kind of venues and stuff like that. And I mean, man, when I heard that verse, I was like, shit, like this dude, like he on his way up to the top. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because his style was so different.
Yeah, it's clear to see already, like the influence that he's had on music, on the whole, I'm not going to say a genre, like music, on the whole music.
Like rock mixed with rap and, you know, over trap beats. So I just thought that was something new, you know what I'm saying? Something different than, you know, we haven't seen in a while. It's like a lot of dark, it's very dark, you know, he has like, his visuals are very dark. And then what he talks about too, you know, he talks about like real life situations too as well. Like he talks about going through different things and, you know, and drugs and stuff like that, you know.
He was pouring out real emotion on those records, you know what I'm saying? For all the kids that listen to it, they definitely understand and they relate.
It's like, here's me sad, and the fans, you know, they sing with you because they feel, but there's everything else behind the scenes. It's just like, fuck, I mean, this comes with it.
The money don't fix it. A lot of the times when you're coming up, you really feel like, you know, those 6 zeros are gonna change everything, bro. I remember it. I used to think, man, when I make $1 million, that's it. Like, that must be the goal in life. Like, that must be it. But you get there and you realize, you know, it's real pain. You know what I'm saying? There's things to sort out. You got to go and see your peoples, chill, like get your head right. It might even mean you leaving you know, the immediate people around you for a minute and finding like another safe haven that is cool to you, you know.
People are counting on you, you know, the crew are counting on you, your manager and everybody's counting on you to get up and, you know, get out there and perform, you know. And it's a hard job, man. It's not easy. And sometimes, you know, you have to take a couple of shots of alcohol or pop or something or smoke some weed just to try to cope.
The lifestyle comes with it, and it's like, that's why we love the supporters so much. We love the fans so much because, like, they really do give us that break away from, like, what we're going through at that time when we're, you know, when we're performing or when they're just sending, like, feedback or whatever. So it's mad love because most of the time they're the ones who get it. You know what I'm saying? They're the ones you know and that can relate to your pain.
Pete knew, I mean, he showed love to his fans and he had beautiful fans and he went out and crushed it every fucking night. It's like one of those people come around every so often and it's just fucking in your face and I am who I am and like it or not, this is me, you know.
He was at the stage where it was gonna go from him just being on the internet to him being a household name and really owning that emotion, that sound that he was putting out. Because a lot of people do that to sound like him, you know what I'm saying? But he was gonna own it on a household name.
That dude was talented, man. I mean, you can see it, you can hear it. I mean, like, just think where, you know, who knows where that shit would have went, you know what I mean? I think it would have went all the way up to the Grammys and beyond.
We'll never have another one, but, you know, we got stuff to remember and listen to, you know, and it's a memory of them. I don't know, but it's, I just figured, you know what, I got all my boys on me, you know, people that I musically look up to, but, you know, I just figured to pay respect and, because I think that he belongs with all these guys, you know, like he's, you know, his music does the same to me that their music does, you know.
He passed away, rest in peace with the vision, man, and it's gonna live forever. You know what I'm saying? Peep's vision lives forever, man.
I met Peep online. Actually, like, I found him online, like I heard his music and I liked it. Like, you know, it sounded different from everything. So like, I think I hit him up or like one of his friends or something, and I was like, oh, let me send you a beat. And you know, we hung out for a while, like up until we went on tour. And we went on tour together with Fat Nick, and pretty much like me and Pete were the openers, so he was like my roommate for like 2 months pretty much. So we were like, those 2 months, we were like bestest friends. He was exactly like, you know, what I expected him to be. He was a cool dude, like really happy. You know what I'm saying? He was really friendly. He was never looking for problems with nobody. Like, he was just like, he was a good friend to have, you know what I'm saying? He was a good friend.
That was one of my close friends. I had heard of him before when I was living in Virginia. I was going through like hella legal shit, and I was getting locked up. And he had this one bar on one of his songs. He was like, "Free young bro, Lil Tracy, ho." And I was like, who is this? I met up with him for the first time at his house in Pasadena, in California. And we barely even spoke 2 words, but we made a song, and it was White Tea. And then we made the video like the hour after that. It was all hella natural. Everything we did was easy. It was like drinking water. We would just always be together, like going around Cali, like doing the random ass shows. There was a point, it was a couple months where we were like pretty much like glued together. He was my best friend. I could tell him whatever. And we made a lot of music together. Nothing that we said in those songs wasn't true. Like, it was just, yeah, it was just real feelings.
And he really put all his emotion in his music. Like, it was really his passion. Like, he really loved it. Like, you could still go, you could listen to any Peep song you want, and it's like, if you really know him, you're like, damn, there's nothing fake about it. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't an act, you know, it was really what he was living, going through, you know what I'm saying, like battling depression. Like, he was like, I remember when I went on tour, like, some days he would be really down, some days he would be straight.
We definitely deal with more anxiety than the regular person, because people expect so much from you when you're, you know, they just think that he was just on drugs, like living his life with no pressure, just a rock star. Like, nah.
And the bigger it gets, is like the more pressure on your shoulders, the more people depending on you, and you know that's a lot to deal with, especially when you're already like having trouble like dealing with yourself. There was a time where like he was so fucked up. Me and Krez like would stayed up to watch him. He told like it's cause he would talk to us about his problems, and like, you know, he would let like his problems like eat him alive and stuff, and like I guess that was his like way out.
I'm just glad that we got to do what we did in the amount of time that we did it. I know everyone feels hella lonely now because everyone feels like they lost their best friend. I thought it wasn't real. You know? Like, seeing that shit on Twitter, I was like, nah. I hadn't even talked to him probably in like over a month. We knew it was kind of like weird. I was tired of being like, you know, the little homie on the verse. Like, no. Bro, he was, I be thinking about it. I tried to, towards like the end, when they were on that tour, they were in Philly, and I was just like, yo, can I pull up? And they were like, nah. But I wasn't tripping. I think if I would have seen him, I'm not saying that I could have been like a hero, but I think things maybe would have been different. We probably would have really took over like the whole world, I feel like, eventually. Because I knew we would have ended up being friends again. I forget where I was at, but these kids came up to me and they was like, bro, do you understand how like legendary the songs that you made with him are?
He's pretty much he's a legend. Like, he's literally a legend, like I said, like, because everybody's a rock star nowadays, you know what I'm saying? But he was He was this generation's like rock star.
This will be the music that in 30 years, like, kids will be like, as adults, you know, playing for their kids. And I think that is awesome.
My first impression of Lil Peep. My first impression of Lil Peep, my first ever impression was I'd seen one of my youngers that I rap with has showed me a picture of Lil Peep on a social and said, look, this boy looks like you. That's the first impression. I was like, who's this kid? And then from then, I started watching him. Like, not necessarily his music, but just watching his lifestyle. To be honest with you, the next step from there was this little shit better come and talk to us and say what's good, because what's really happening here. But then, like, that little shit came to my house, and stood with me and told me everything stuff I don't even want to say, but how I had inspired him, and that he looked like how he did because of how I looked. I've never in my whole entire life, I've been here for 30 years on this earth, I've never, ever, ever had such a close bond with someone so quickly, like a real brotherly love. From when we first met, it was like we would say this is like looking in a mirror. He came to London and he felt like it was home. He was about to move there. Literally, he was coming off tour to come home and live in London. When I tell you everyone in my city, even the big hood man, not everyone, but like all the people I'm around, hood guys love Lil Peep. British people are quite cynical. It's quite like we're cynics. And he managed to change some of my, people in my life who are older than me, who are some of the most cynical people on this earth who don't agree. He changed their whole outlook. A 21-year-old boy from a completely different country changed my friend's outlook on life. This was him. You know them ones? Open energy to everything, just open. We talked about like the shit we've been through. I talked about him about his we talked about pain and I don't want to say, but about love, about girls we were in love with, shit that was happening, like people that were doing stuff to us. He consoled me like an older brother, so I held that role. And I spoke to him like I should as an older brother, because I do have a little brother. And I was just like, yo, look, if this person's fucking your shit up and is wasting your energy and getting to you, cut them out. If this person's getting to you, cut them out. Like, you don't need that. You give too much. That boy gave so much more than he took. He did not take. He does not know how to take. All he knew how to do was give. Like, he gave me his chain. First time he ever came to my house, he gave me that chain. You know, the upside down cross, the pink one. Like his first chain, I gave that to my little brother. So it's like everything's in the family. Like, he passed away with the 616 axe on his neck. A chain I'd given him. Like, he passed away with it on his neck, which is a deep thing for me. Like, that shit hurt. The last conversation I had with him, I said, I love you, be careful out there. Just, you know what happened to my little brother out there. That was it, because I knew he was in Tucson. And I nearly lost my little brother in Tucson before. And then Gus died. Just like that. It was, my house was, bro, I smashed the whole room. Like, I lost a little brother and a best friend. Like, at the same time. Which is real difficult. If you're such a powerful soul like Pete, if you play with the darkness and if you mess with that and you manifest those things, it can come for you. Same way the light comes. You have to be very careful what you wish for. And he was just a young boy. He was just a young boy. It just is what it is, and I'm just grateful that I got to just be even around the boy. Standing next to him was that's some of my proudest moments, standing next to him. I keep all the shit he drew on my walls. Like, I got my house redecorated, but I left the shit he drew on my walls just out of that. I just want to see it. That to me, my brother, like, I love him. Love, proper. All I have to do now is live up to, keep his legacy alive. People will know Peep. People are gonna know Peep. The world will know Peep. He doesn't need to have kids. He had 1 million kids. They're all out there. You can go listen to them. You can go watch his kids. It's his song, his music. That's his children. That's his legacy. Yeah, Peep's not dead. Yeah, okay, yeah. But Peep is not dead. Peep is forever. Peep is immortal. He is infinite. He is forever. Bro, he's pink, innit? It's pink for Peep. It's not a joke. It's pink for Peep forever, bro. It's literally pink for Peep for the rest of my life, fam.
Some of the first I ever heard of Gus was through mutual friends. I started seeing videos of this kid, Lil Peep, playing these shows where everyone already knew all the words and everything, and I was like, checked it out, realized, him and I kind of knew sort of similar people. And once I listened to the music, I was like, okay, wow, this is really special and cool. And I was a fan really right away. I think I was able to recognize Peep's songwriting capabilities like really early on. Like I write lyrics and I produce, I write all my own music, and I know how hard it is to really write a good hook that's really catchy, or to write like a really strong vocal melody. It's not that easy. But for Peep, it seemed totally effortless. These super catchy melodies that he would just come up with off the fly, it seemed like every song was so catchy, every song, just all these hooks that I thought were really genius. I think that influence is the sort of trap influence, songs that are just only hooks, people that's been happening in rap for a while now, I think, where you just this mantra kind of you repeat over and over again. But I think someone like Peep was taking that and making it even more melodic and more like a chorus that's just kind of over and over again. Part of his genius was that he was just this really gifted musician in that way. His sense of melody was incredible. The things that Peep was blending together, which is obviously rap, culture, but also just this more like free expression, underground electronic kind of vibe, which it brings things from all different histories, Sure, there's emo, but it's also like, electronica or, 90s shoegaze and grunge and like, and then fusing all these things with like a rap bravado and like, those sensibilities of like hip hop culture, but blending it all in with these weird kind of underground experimental aesthetics, which isn't easy to do. Like trying to explain it is one thing, but like not everyone can really do that. Someone like Peep could, where you're taking from all these different subcultures at the same time and creating something totally new out of that. Like Peep was a real master engineer that way, of like he knew what he wanted to sound like. And I think to judge him in like a strictly rap context or like a emo context, like you're totally missing the full spectrum of what's going on. It's so crazy for how young Peep was and how advanced he was in that way, of like this fully realized sonic palette. His vocal styles and the lyrical content, I think, was what really set him apart. It was so dark and brooding and serious and like emotional. I kept thinking of just like what it would be like for me to be a teenager and be hearing this for the first time. It's like you feel a part of yourself in that music when it's happening. I don't know, I just wish he was still around because his influence is so vast, and there are a lot of people that are just sort of taking this blueprint that he set and just kind of like just doing that exactly. Whereas Peep was so special because he was purely himself, his spirit was just shining and it was authentic because of that. He was really his own artist. He knew what was right. He knew what he felt inside, and was just being true to himself, I think.
So we was in London in an Airbnb. It was like 4 in the morning and I'd work at 6. I was about to get an Uber back home from London to here to like get changed. I was a bin man at the time, so I had to get my uniform on and go out cleaning the streets and shit. I started saying bye to everyone, and people was like, where you going? Like, it's late, like you can stay here. I was like, I got to work. He was like, oh fuck man. He was like, literally just said, he was like, you don't have to work no more if you want, like we'll find something for you to do. So what do you mean? In my head I'm thinking bills, paying my mum's rent, like all this shit. I'm like, what do you mean I don't have to work? Like, he looked me in the eyes, he was like, I got you. Like, he was like, bro, your brain, like why you don't need to be emptying bins. Like, he was like, you're special, like you know what I mean? You need to be using your skills, otherwise like you don't need to be a bin man anymore. He asked me how much I was earning at the week, and he was like, alright, times that by 4. He was like, so you only, like, how much I needed to pay my mum, innit? Because I was paying my mum, like, rent and shit. So we worked out how much I needed to pay. He was like, alright, we can do this in a month, and then you can pay your mum from that. I was like, what the fuck? I went in the bathroom, had a little think. I think I went like, fuck, because I was like so torn. I was like, do I quit my job or do I just go back and like do it for a bit longer? And I just come out, I was like, oh, fuck it, like, I'm staying here. And everyone was like, yeah. I rang them in the morning, I was like, I ain't coming in no more, like, I ain't coming in no more. I'm a superstar. No, I'm joking. But I said, it was like, you, alright then, no worries, you're gonna be in Friday then? I was like, no, like, I'm not coming in no more, like, I'm done. And yeah, and I haven't been back to work since. Literally 3 days later, Fashion Week. He was like, boom, you're my cameraman. So we done Fashion Week, Milan, Paris. Then he was like, tour next month. And then that was it. Yeah, and I was there till the end, man. And I'm not, like, it was weird for me as well, because I've never, like, no one's ever helped me with anything, you know what I mean? I've always, like, went out and got a job when I was like 15 and shit. I always wanted my own money. I never relied on anyone. So then he got this kid here the same age as me, like, and he's just fucking, and not relying on him, but he just offered, like, he just changed my life, bro. And he did. It's crazy. Yeah, no, I'll remember that night forever, man. He was ahead of, like, people would start picking up on his shit, and then he'd switch himself up, change everything. That's what you meant to do as an artist, isn't it? Get shit, destroy it, and rebuild it.
You know what? Somebody had actually mentioned him to me. Somebody told me there was this young guy like that was down, like living in Skid Row that was starting this new movement. So I just kind of heard about it. First impression of people was like, you know, he came up. He was very tall, and despite like massive amounts of tattoos and kind of crazy hair, he's a super handsome guy. And it was interesting because we were at a restaurant, and I think like half the ladies in the restaurant couldn't take their eyes off him. They just kept looking at him, and like, you know, and he was kind of like, yeah, he was like waving at him and everything, you know. And he actually starts out, he's kind of shy, and then all of a sudden, he's leading the conversation. I mean, he knows what he wants. His vibe and his knowledge about what was going on was so deep and so thick. Like, he was an easy guy to like look up to as an artist. I was like, this guy's amazing. He has so much stuff going on. Yeah, his hair and his style, I mean, he had that third eye kind of thing where he knew exactly how he should look and where he should be. I mean, it's actually a very hard thing to walk into like a Hollywood restaurant where we were and to actually truly command the attention of 80% of the people in that restaurant just because of the way you look. Like, just people on the street for no reason. Like, they would just be like, who's that? Like, he's a head turner. Lil Peep was a guy who was fascinating to me because he was basically doing the same thing. If he was taking Green Day and My Chemical Romance and his favorite trap and hip hop music and marrying those styles to create something new, you got to kind of be a genius to be able to do that kind of stuff and make it work, and he was. The poetry that's on top of there, even right from the beginning, he never sings a word of bullshit. It's always like, it's coming right at you. And the fact that his phrasing, like, he doesn't phrase, like a lot of people in pop music or whatever, there's a lot of ways that you can make a little 4-bar phrase, a little 4-bar melody, and then do another 4-bar melody, and then do a C-section, whatever. He's kind of like, he's more sophisticated than that. Peep was actually a fan of a lot of records that I had done earlier in my career. He really loved, like Green Day's Time of Your Life, a lot of Green Day music and a lot of My Chemical Romance music, and some Jawbreaker stuff off of Dear You, it's called. And I think that, he liked some strings I had done and some guitars, but I think he let me know, he was like, I like all that stuff. I don't really want to do that. But what I want to do is take a part of that and mix it with trap and hip hop. I want to go emo, trap, hip hop mix, which was amazing to me. I was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. Let's see what happens. He was like, play the piano for me. And I was like, okay. And so I started playing all kinds of stuff. And he was really quick. He was like, oh, I like that one. Or no, I don't play like that. Or play this one, And I would always, and then I realized what he really liked was like dark music, like dark chords and dark feeling, like ominous feeling things. I was thinking of it dark from like almost like old metal or something, And then I thought, then internally I was like, oh, I know, it just came to me, I'm gonna move the bass around. And I was doing that because I was thinking, it's crazy dopey stuff, but I was thinking like, oh, there's a bell on one side of town, and then there's this bell on the other side of town, and it's scary, and there's like vampires, and I'm going, vampire one, and then another bell from another part, and then another over there from that part of town, and I'm like, we're all surrounded by vampires, and they were different bells. And then, when I got back to the one, and I was going, and then I did it one more time. Then I looked up, and the smoke's going, yeah. My impression was, I go, oh my God, this guy's a superstar. He's onto something, and this is just the very beginning. When you're breaking down those new musical boundaries, and you're putting it in a different form, there's usually, at the beginning, a negativity towards it. Because it does sound foreign, and it does challenge you to think of something new. And you probably won't like it right at first. But sometimes that's the most satisfying music, because after a few listens, and all of a sudden you get this light going, and then all of a sudden it bursts through, and then there's so much feeling in it, and then you realize you're listening to something that's absolutely genius. That he had that. I am so sad that he is not here, he's no longer with us, because first of all, it's so rare to meet somebody like that and to have a partnership with somebody who's so good. And so I was truly looking forward to getting in again. And I knew that the world lost somebody that day because, again, like he was gifted with this amazing talent, and that we just weren't going to get to see it go for the next 20 years. He was weaving his legend. It was just the beginning things of he was starting to weave his world.
My name is Adam McElwee. My stage name is Wicked Phase, Springs Eternal. I was in Goth Boy Click with Gus, and I started Goth Boy Click with Cold Heart. Man, October of 2016, I think, when I actually first met him. And Gus had moved out to LA at that time. So he was friends with Chris Horsehead, friends with NetArb, friends with Jay, and I think it was Chris who was really pushing for him to join Goth Boy Click. So I told them to have him call me, and I talked to him for 5 minutes, and I realized that he was significantly nicer than most people that I encounter in this scene, in this world. Really, like, sweet, and from the start, he was probably bigger than all of us at that point, more popular than all of us. And then a week later, Goth Boy Click had a show in LA, and I think it was just billed as Goth Boy Click, kind of vague as to who was going to be there. And he was there. He came to that show. I think, honestly, Absolute and Doubt, I think, came together in that week, the week between me having the initial phone call with Gus and that show. It was quick. He sent me the beat, and he just said, take as much time as, do whatever you want on it. And so I did like the first half, he did the second half. But when Gus sent his part back, I was like, I mean, this is a legitimate song. This isn't, I feel like what happens a lot of time with this genre, and it might be the case in rap in general, is you send someone a beat or you send someone an open, you do your thing, they do their thing. But I mean, Gus bridged our two parts like perfectly in a way that you kind of have to be a legitimate songwriter to do that. And that's what I realized. This isn't just someone who does a verse on a song and is out, you know, and doesn't do it. He'll work to make the song cohesive and to make it a collaborative effort. Very lucky. I'm very lucky to be one of the people who got to perform a song with him regularly, even if it was for, I think we did 13 shows together, maybe. I didn't expect to do Absolute and Doubt live ever, just because he had so many hits, and I don't know, I didn't think that was one of them necessarily. So yeah, I don't know. He definitely, I mean, he would be singing my parts. He would back me up knowing exactly where I needed a breath in the songs. And I would do the same for him, but, you know, the fact that he knew to do that was just awesome. You know, what I found most admirable about him was his personal life and like his, just his demeanor towards me and I mean everyone that was around him. What I say every time I talk about him was just how sweet he was. I remember him getting like a bunch of beats, like big like 808 Mafia beats and like Sunny Digital beats, and then just sending them to us and being like, who wants to get on these beats? Like who, you know? And it's like, no, these are yours. Like you worked for this. He was never selfish. He was never selfish. As an artist, like he was born to just be this more than human star. And I mean, there was no other option. He succeeded. He definitely succeeded at transcending just like the normal day-to-day life bullshit and, you know, and being the artist that he wanted to be creating. And that goes from writing songs and recording to live performance to the way he dressed and like the way he would style his hair and stuff like that. You know, he had it all perfect. He did commit to what Lil Peep was, but at the same time, it was him. Like that was him. He was Lil Peep. It was just like a different aspect of him.
My name is Zane Lowe, out in Los Angeles, California. There were two who were very vocal and were really trying to get my attention, just purely on like a you'll love this kind of thing. And one was Travis Mills and the other was Daniel P. Carter. And I remember Dan came around to my house and sort of wouldn't leave until he'd played Lil Peep. You need to really listen to this now. You can't just kind of skirt over it or dance around it. You've got to really listen to it. And so he put it on really loud. What I recognized when I started really listening to Peep's music was that it was entirely believable on every level. And when that happens, you don't really think about like, oh, it reminds me of this, or it reminds me of that, or it sounds a bit like this, or there's a combination of elements to make something new. You're just drawn into just a very real experience. You know, I interviewed him once on FaceTime and recognized that he was very honest and very connected to his music and wanted to help others with his music. Recognized that in him pretty much immediately. It's a powerful body of work for such a young artist at an early stage of their career, and who knows where that conversation would have gone. I'm really interested in what this guy's saying with his music. I do understand that the influences are coming in from different places, and I think that that's going to, you know, leave a real mark. And I could tell from talking to people that he was starting to become one of those artists that was reaching people in a very deep and real way. It wasn't just like, that sounds cool, that looks cool, you know. that person's cool. It was like, no, 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 this is, people are connecting this in a different way. And you can feel that. You know when an artist has got some authenticity to them that just reaches people and it goes beyond that, all that surface stuff. Surface stuff is important, it's cool. It's what drives a lot of decisions and a lot of stuff that's going on all the time. We're always like, wow, that looks really cool, or I want to go there, that looks great, or you know what I mean? But when it gets deeper than that, that's the real stuff, and it's rare. So absolutely, I'd love to, you know, catch up with this young man and find out what's moving him and motivating him, which is crazy because he was a great pop writer. He had great pop melodies. I mean, he had catchy hooks. You know, I think that if he'd carried on, that just would have come more and more naturally to him. I never felt like he was struggling to find a way to connect with me or with an audience. Like, you know, he had a really natural way with his music and way with his words, and, you know, some of it was really hard to listen to because it's so honest and personal and dark at times and deep and just transparent, but the melodies were very, you know, you could connect to them. I think he's an influence. I think his music will continue to influence. I really, really wanted to be his music and who he was and what he said rather than the manner into which he left. Like, that's just tragedy. We can't really glorify that stuff, you know what I mean? It's really got to be about the music that was left behind and what he was saying at that time. And again, I could be wrong, but I just would like to think that as he'd continued to go, he'd have got to a place where some clarity, some wisdom, some life, some experience reinforced his message and allowed him to be of even more value and support for people. Because I do feel that he was trying to do that. I do feel that his music, like I said, wasn't some kind of narcissistic, self-indulgent experience, that he was sort of saying these things because it was like helping him, and he was like, it might help others too. It's a really, really tragic situation, and an amazing, promising artist who I think was going to go on and say some really powerful things is no longer around. You just don't know where they would have gone, and that's part of the sadness of it, but also if you can keep an open mind, and it kind of makes you feel better too, thinking that there were so many different ways and paths that a Lil Peep could have gone down. Like I said, in 5-10 years time, who knows, man?